Your neighbor is back, bitching about your partner everywhere, but someone is not having it. Yes, you heard that right. It's the gossip game all over again, with tongues wagging, whispers flying, and judgments being cast faster than you can say, "Mind your own business." But amid this cacophony of chatter, there's a voice of reason, a voice that refuses to be drowned out by the noise of petty squabbles and idle talk. Please like and subscribe to my channel Seraphic Tales for more interesting videos. We've all been there, haven't we? Dealing with nosy neighbors who seem to have made it their life's mission to pry into every aspect of our personal affairs. They peek through curtains, eavesdrop on conversations, and even go as far as spreading rumors faster than wildfire in a dry forest. But what happens when someone decides to put an end to all the drama and stand up for what's right? That's where the real story begins. Picture this: you're going about your day, minding your own business, when suddenly you hear the familiar sound of gossip swirling around the neighborhood like a storm cloud on the horizon. Your neighbor, let's call her Mrs. Smith, is at it again, airing her grievances about your partner to anyone who will listen. She's like a broken record, repeating the same tired complaints over and over again, as if hoping that somehow, magically, they will gain validity with each repetition. But amidst all the commotion, there's one person who refuses to play along with Mrs. Smith's game. Let's call him Mr. Jones. He's the quiet one, the one you never really noticed until now. But when he speaks, people listen. And what he has to say changes everything. Enough is enough, Mr. Jones declares, his voice cutting through the din like a knife. We've all heard Mrs. Smith's complaints, but have any of us take the time to listen to what she's saying? Or are we just blindly accepting her version of events without question? The crowd falls silent, stunned by Mr. Jones's unexpected outburst. For years, they'd been content to nod along with Mrs. Smith's tirades, never stopping to consider whether there might be another side to the story. But now, faced with Mr. Jones's challenge, they're forced to confront their complicity in perpetuating the cycle of gossip and rumor-mongering. Slowly, hesitantly, the tide begins to turn. One by one, people start to question the validity of Mrs. Smith's accusations, realizing that perhaps there's more to this situation than meets the eye. They begin to see their partner not as the villain Mrs. Smith has painted them to be, but as a complex, multifaceted individual with their hopes, dreams, and struggles. And as the truth begins to emerge from the fog of rumor and innuendo, something remarkable happens. People start to come together, united by a newfound sense of empathy and understanding. They begin to see themselves not as adversaries locked in a battle of wills, but as neighbors bound by a shared sense of community and common humanity. Mrs. Smith's gossip loses its power to divide and conquer, replaced instead by a spirit of cooperation and mutual respect. Your partner, once the target of her vitriol, is now welcomed into the fold with open arms. Their past transgressions are forgiven in the light of this newfound understanding. As for Mrs. Smith, well, let's just say she's learned a valuable lesson about the dangers of jumping to conclusions and spreading rumors without evidence. She may never be the most popular person in the neighborhood, but she's come to realize that true happiness doesn't come from tearing others down, but from lifting them. So the next time you find yourself embroiled in a neighborhood drama worthy of a soap opera plot, remember the story of Mrs. Smith, Mr. Jones, and your partner. Remember that gossip is a weapon of mass destruction, capable of destroying lives and tearing communities apart. And remember that the only way to truly defeat it is with empathy, understanding, and a healthy dose of skepticism. And if all else fails, just follow Mr. Jones's lead and tell it like it is. After all, sometimes the truth is the most powerful weapon of all. As the sun sets on another day in the neighborhood, you can't help but feel a sense of gratitude for the lessons you've learned and the bonds you've forged. Sure, there will always be gossip mongers like Mrs. Smith lurking in the shadows, but as long as there are people like Mr. Jones willing to stand up for what's right, you know that the power of community will always triumph over the petty squabbles of small minds. So the next time you hear the whispers of gossip swirling around you, take a moment to pause and reflect. Ask yourself, are these rumors based on fact, or are they merely the product of someone's overactive imagination? And remember, the truth is out there, waiting to be discovered by those brave enough to seek it out. It's not the gossip that defines us, but how we choose to respond to it. Will we succumb to the temptation to tear others down in pursuit of our selfish desires? Or will we rise above the fray, guided by principles of integrity, empathy, and mutual respect? As the dust settles and the neighborhood returns to its usual rhythm, there's a palpable sense of relief in the air. The drama has subsided, replaced by an atmosphere of newfound camaraderie and understanding. People greet each other with smiles instead of suspicious glances, and the once divided community begins to heal its wounds. But the story doesn't end there. No, this is just the beginning of a new chapter, one filled with promise, possibility, and the potential for even greater change. Inspired by the events that transpired, you and your neighbors come together to form a neighborhood watch group, dedicated to promoting peace, harmony, and mutual respect among residents. Under Mr. Jones's leadership, the group embarks on a mission to stamp out gossip and rumor-mongering once and for all. They organize community events, host neighborhood potlucks, and even start a newsletter to keep everyone informed about what's happening in the area. And with each passing day, the bonds between neighbors grow stronger, until they become more like family than mere acquaintances. Of course, there are still occasional hiccups along the way. Old habits die hard, and there are always those who are resistant to change. But with patience, persistence, and a healthy dose of humor, the Neighborhood Watch Group perseveres, determined to create a better, more inclusive community for all. And as the days turn into weeks, and the weeks into months, something miraculous happens. People who once saw each other as strangers become friends, allies, and confidants. They look out for one another, lend a helping hand when needed, and celebrate each other's successes as if they were their own. As you look out over the neighborhood from your front porch, you can't help but feel a sense of pride in how far you've come. The journey hasn't always been easy, but it's been worth it. Worth it to see the smiles on your neighbors' faces, worth it to feel the warmth of their friendship, and worth it to know that, together, you built something truly special. And so, as the sun sets on another day in the neighborhood, you raise a glass to the future, To all the adventures that lie ahead, all the challenges yet to be faced, and all the friendships yet to be forged. Because no matter what tomorrow brings, one thing is certain: as long as you have each other, there's nothing you can't overcome. Please like and subscribe to my channel Seraphic Tales for more interesting videos. In the end, the gossip that once threatened to tear the neighborhood apart becomes nothing more than a distant memory, a cautionary tale of the dangers of divisiveness and distrust. In its place stands a community united in purpose and bound by shared values, a community where everyone is welcome, regardless of their past mistakes or perceived shortcomings. So the next time you find yourself at odds with your neighbors, remember the story of Mrs. Smith, Mr. Jones, and the power of community to overcome even the greatest of obstacles. And if all else fails, just remember to take a page out of Mr. Jones's book and tell it like it is. After all, sometimes the truth is the best weapon of all.